Well, good afternoon. My name is Mark Belash. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. Thanks for being here today. We're just going to give people a couple of seconds to make sure they get to the right spot. And we're live on the main stage. You're not missing anything out right now. So as people join the platform and as people get to be comfortable with where to go and so on, it will just be a couple of seconds and I will introduce the panel shortly. So if you're just joining, my name is Mark Belash. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca, and I will just make sure that everything is running smoothly from a technical perspective, which it looks like everybody's good. All right, terrific. So thanks very much. We've got a lot of stuff to cover today. But first off, I want to introduce the panel, and we'll go around, introduce each person, and we'll talk about maybe an issue that's impacting you as well. And if you are watching and you have any questions, feel free to post them in the either in the event or in the stage portion on the right-hand side, and I will moderate the questions as we go along here. So, Shauna Kapustin. Shauna is an experienced senior HR professional from Synex Corporation with a proven track record of aligning human resources strategies to business operations and needs. Her goal is to ensure her employees are engaged and more efficient at work. So, Shauna, maybe you can talk about, what are the issues that you're seeing from a jobs perspective, what your organization is going through, maybe some of the jobs that you're also hiring for?
Sure. Thanks, Mark, and I'm happy to be here. So thank you for inviting me. As far as my perspective is concerned, I kind of have a dual role. So I look after HR in Canada, but I also look after talent acquisition from a North American perspective. So Synex is in a very fortunate position that we are an essential service. We've been operating since the start of COVID. We probably our best description is we kind of have two business lines, if you will. So we're a sales and services organization, but we're also distribution. And our distribution centers haven't closed since March. So from what we're seeing perspective, HR obviously has its own built-in issues, moving people work from home, making sure that the people that are currently in our distribution centers are safe and operating at the best capacity that they can. All health and safety things are being listened to, how to amp that up, because that was obviously a major concern, is ramping everything up to make sure that the people who have to be there every day are in the safest possible capacity. From recruiting's perspective, we haven't stopped recruiting, which again is a little bit of an enviable position. We understand that. Our operations are always looking for people. That's our warehouses, but we're also a sales organization. And thankfully, our sales haven't stopped. So we've been consistent across North America looking for anything that has to align with the sales organizations, product managers, inside sales, business development. It's a fortunate position to be in, but of course we recognize that a lot of people have other challenges, and wherever we can help, we try to.
Terrific. And the question always comes up, well, how do people apply, I guess, right off the bat?
So that's an easy one because we are online, like everything else, I'm sure. So we do have a partnership with Workday. That's really our ATS. That's where it starts. And I do want to assure everybody there are zero filters on our ATS. So every resume is getting in front of one of our recruiters. Everything is being read. We post everything on our career site. So that's synexcorp.com/careers. We also have a very heavy partnership with LinkedIn. So everything that we have available is on one of those platforms. Every URL that's available, we encourage everybody and anyone to apply to anything they want to.
Excellent. Okay, so Brian Epstein, career management and leadership coach who has taught employment, business, and English courses to students and graduates of local community colleges. Brian has completed coach training at Coaches Training Institute and is now working on his accreditation from the International Coaching Federation, ICF. So Brian, what are you seeing in the jobs market right now? What do you see people coming to you for coaching advice? What are the issues that you're seeing?
I'm seeing people well, first of all, Mark, thank you for having me today. And I'm very happy to be here and join this panel. What I'm seeing is actually twofold. I'm seeing a lot of people that unfortunately are in career transition. Because of COVID, they may not be working right now and they're looking for new work. And then I'm also seeing some people dying in the stress because they're what you would call survivors still in the organization. And they're trying to manage with a smaller workforce and trying to get all the work done and managing all the different challenges that are happening since basically since March.
Excellent. So Angela Bertolini from Irvine, California. How exciting. Named the #1 recruiter in the world based on the LinkedIn Recruiter Index, LRI, in 2018. Angela, you lead a team that finds innovative talent to join Ingram Micro Cloud, Cloud Blue, and technology solutions with innovation. So maybe you can talk about how you're involved in the Canadian side, what you're seeing in the jobs market, and issues that you're encountering as hiring as a recruiter.
Absolutely, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And again, Ingram Micro, similar to Cenex, we didn't stop hiring. So our warehouses, so we have 3 strong pillars of business in our warehousing, in ALCs. We didn't stop hiring. That's where we are hiring the most in Canada right now. Also our cloud and also TS solutions in the US across the board. So we are experiencing some of the biggest challenges we are experiencing is really the high volume of applicants. So really coaching the recruiters, we implemented last year, a new system that's a bot. So every single applicant gets a chance to connect with us in seconds after they apply for jobs. So that's what we are trying to do in order to give it the attention that all the applicants deserve. So that's one thing that we are definitely doing towards that problem. My partner in Canada, she was unable to join, but what I can tell is globally, we are continuously growing. We are now in a $47 billion in revenue. We are present in 160 countries. So Ingram Micro is the #1 leader, technology and supply chain service distributor in the world. 35,000 associates. So it's interesting to see that despite the pandemic, we are still hiring. Our team is still strong, but definitely a time that we are paying special attention to our associates. Mental health is one thing that we are putting a lot of focus on, and super happy to be here to exchange experience and talk to other recruiters about challenges we are going through.
Terrific. And how for those people who are looking for a job and they're interested in working for your organization, how do people apply for your organization?
It's Ingram Micro Careers. We use Job Vital as our ATS, and you receive a bot or connection right away after you apply. We are also available to connect on LinkedIn. Please send me an invitation after, and we can amplify the network, but definitely LinkedIn and our career page are the 2 forums that we use the most.
Okay, terrific. So let's talk about some numbers in Canada, job numbers. So in March, we lost 1 million jobs. In April, we lost 2 million jobs. So we're a 3 million job loss. In September, we regained about 400,000 jobs, which basically got us to the point of being down about 700,000 jobs. So we've regained about 2.3 million jobs. Some of the jobs that have come back are not exactly the same as what we had from before. The hours have been cut, or salaries are lower than before. But we're coming back. We're making a good recovery. The unemployment rate went from basically the lowest unemployment rate in Canada's history to the highest unemployment rate in Canada's history in just a few months. In February, we were at just over 5% unemployment rate. And in May, we got up to 13%. So now we're about 9%. We're hopefully making some strides. What happens in the unemployment rate is that they capture both temporary and full-time as one employee. But we're making progress. We're getting better. So for the people that are watching who are still out of work, and in fact, there's still many more people who are, while they may not be counted as under 700,000 who are unemployed, there's still more people who are unemployed. Maybe they've dropped out of the race or searching and so on. Maybe to you, Brian, for those people that are in that group, what other tips would you have from the coach's angle? And then we'll talk to Shauna and Angela here about, what they're seeing and how people should, try to find jobs here. So, Brian?
Well, I think it's a great question. And I think the first thing people have to do when they find themselves in this situation is just to take a breath, or to take a good looking at of all their skills and their experience, and to determine what they have and what they have to offer, and then try to think of where they could possibly offer those skills, because you are right, jobs have been lost, but there is a shift. And when there's a shift, there's going to be jobs that might come up in another area that might be required. For example, if someone is in IT, if he may lose his job in one organization because of there's less requirements. And for example, the restaurant business, there may be requirements in another area, especially areas that might try to pick up. For example, I'm just thinking unfortunately, there's been a need for ventilators over the last year, 6 months or so as well. So people maybe needed to work in those industries. So taking abreast of your skills and experience. And then I think the big thing is to reach out to your network and to grow your network, to talk to people. Obviously, the meetings cannot be in person, but for many organizations, but it's a good chance to set up meetings with people with different organizations and to find out what's happening in their industry and to what you want to do as much networking as possible and finding out what's going on in different industries. So I think making yourself available, finding out what you have to offer, and then doing your research to find out where there may be requirements for your skills and experience.
Great points, yeah. Shauna, how about you? What would you recommend for people who are, from a recruiter's perspective, you're hiring, you never stopped hiring. What would you say like to people who have been out of work? And, there's a number of people that have been out of work for 6 months since the pandemic hit.
Yeah, it may seem insincere to hear recruiters say, just hang in there, it's going to get better. It's easy. It's a little bit easier for us to say that, whereas the reality is you likely aren't feeling that way, and we can absolutely empathize. So while I'm very fortunate, I've been where you are. I haven't been when you are in the middle of a pandemic. However, at one point in time, I'm going to assume all of us are job seekers, so we have a little bit of experience of what you might be going through. My big thing is reinvent yourself if you're able to. Just because you know X today doesn't mean that's really where you have to stay. If you have a passion and you love what you do, absolutely stick with it and try to find a way to make it compatible with industry today. But if you have the ability to maybe go back to school, to volunteer, to do extracurricular stuff, to do things that bridge that gap while you're looking for your ideal job, absolutely recommend that. It's important that you stay active and mindful. And I think that comes with doing other things while you're also job searching.
That's good. Good to know. So Angela, you talked about, the jobs that are open, and I've heard this question so many times where people say, well, I don't have the skills, but I'd like to work in that position, but I'm afraid that I send my resume in and it doesn't hit the specifics of what they're looking for. So I'm going to be discounted automatically by their systems and so on. So how would you suggest somebody can maybe work around that? Do you have any tips, any suggestions for those types of situations?
Yes, Mark, thanks for asking the question. I think a lot has to do with the focus on transferable skills. I'll give a few examples that, for example, we hire a lot of tech support and our sales support representatives. And as we all know, the entertainment and the hotel and tourism industry are suffering tremendously. So we hired, for example, in Buffalo, New York, that's right in the border, many talents that are coming from the entertainment industry because of the fundamental skills or competencies are the same, right? So not being afraid of mentioning even hobbies or volunteer work that you did when you utilize other skills that perhaps your resume wouldn't have it. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is updated. Everything on that. Good recruiters will do a great level of scrutiny on LinkedIn. There's another platform we have been using called Way Up. We use Indeed. We are using many platforms to look for talents. So don't be shy to share the skills you have. I'll say it's not about inflating. It's being very transparent about your full potential. So that's my biggest advice for job seekers. And during the interview time, be ready to present situational, some examples that will extrapolate what the words can describe on your resume. So showing you as a person, as a human being, fully capable to learn skills, but also experiences you have. For example, when I moved to the US more than 20 years ago, I remember I went to law school in Brazil. It has nothing to do with HR and talent acquisition. But my first job in HR, I came to the interview and I said, the fundamentals or the principles of ethics and justice that I learned in law school, I can use on HR. So think about it. Think outside of the box when you're applying for jobs.
That's great. Good advice. So, I mean, I know the audience here is a combination of people who are looking for jobs, job seekers, and also recruiters as well. So I want to cover all different facets of it. And so just if you've just joined, my name is Mark Belash. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. I'm joined by the panel with Shauna and Brian Epstein and Angela Bertolini from Irvine, California. So thanks again for the three of you for joining. If you have any questions, by all means, throw them in either in the event or the staged chat, and I will moderate them. I'll make it a little bit sweeter, and I always get people asking questions because I will throw randomly to some people a copy of my book, Tales from the Recruiter. We'll mail it, no cost to you. So if you share some questions, I will randomly pick some people to mail the book out to. So Canada's recovery is known as a K-shaped recovery. So there's an L-shaped recovery, there's a V-shaped recovery. So it goes down and then goes back up, or it goes like an L, which goes down and then it stays flat for quite a while. Well, now it's this time around it's a K-shaped recovery, right? So you got the upper side of the K that is higher earners who can do business remotely, who have capitalized on new trends, new pandemic-linked trends. And then on the lower arm of the K, you've got hourly workers, you've got people who have had jobs that require a face-to-face interaction and be employed by industries that have been hardest hit by the lockdown. So I think of hospitality, retail, travel, tourism, entertainment, and so on. And young people are also in a challenge because they're generally in the bottom half of that K as well. And that impacts everything, like from housing, debt, and so on. So it's an interesting shift. So where Shauna and Angela, where are you on that with your organizations? Are you in the kind of did better after the pandemic, did worse, like drop, like stayed flat? Like where would you say your organizations are? So maybe start with Shauna.
Thanks, Mark. So I'm going to suggest we're holding steady. I said we were deemed essential from pretty much out of the gate. So which meant we pretty much couldn't close, but of course our offices had to close. So anyone that we were able to move work from home, we moved work from home probably within 2.5 days. And you're talking about an organization who, by the way, never had a work from home policy. And within 2 days, we were fully remote. So big shift for us. And an operations side that hasn't missed a beat. And in fact, similar to what Angela was mentioning, we've probably hired more than what we normally would to keep up with the demand. So we are at a minimum holding steady, but if not, we're probably seeing a little bit of an uptick in certain departments relative to others.
I see. And Angela, what's been happening at your organization as well?
Same words as Shana, so holding steady. We are still in some areas growing more. The e-commerce part and distribution of technology definitely more than ever. Was a very quick turnaround. I think it was March 13th when I was flying back home from Buffalo when I got the news that we all would be remote. And it has been an interesting adjustment time for a culture that was kind of flexible, but more of everybody being in the office to adjust very quickly in getting a tremendous amount of work done as all being now remote. So it's interesting. I think there's a little bit of a cultural shift and understanding that it is possible. And I think perhaps what we walk from it is a more flexible work environment than ever. A few years from now, we'll look back and we're going to say, with any crisis, there's an opportunity. So perhaps that is a positive way to look at it all. But in terms of growth, in some areas more than others, but that brought the balance, so no layoffs or in our company. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's great. So a new survey talks about if you make me go to the office, if you make me come back to the office, I'm going to quit. So 32% of Canadians said they would start looking for a new job that would offer a WFH or work from home arrangement. Only 1 in 5 Canadians willing to return to the office once they receive approval from management. Basically, the results still suggest that Canadians aren't really too sure about coming back to the office. There's many different surveys that are coming back. Maybe Shauna, you can talk about your organization. You touched on it a little bit just now, but what do you see the future? Like, where do you see? Do you think people are going to be forced to come back? What if they don't want to come back? Where do you think things are going to go?
I think every organization is going to handle things differently. I think the organizations that are going to be leaders in this area are those that either have already done a work from home, so they have that ability of allowing their associates to work from home, organizations that will allow a hybrid, so you can spend 2 days in the office, 3 days at home, or vice versa. I think organizations that flat out come out and say thou shalt, and it's 5 days in the office, and we're going back to the normal, if you will. I think those organizations may have a harder time with attraction and retention. I can't speak for everybody. That's just my personal opinion. Cynics' perspective, we're looking at a hybrid. So we will likely do a handful of days in the office, a handful of days at home. It's going to be very flexible. It's going to be to meet the needs of the business, but also to meet the needs of the associates. We do still like the office presence. We do still think it's great for collaboration. It's great when you have vendor events. It's great when you're doing something that's in a recognition platform. So there's lots of benefits to it. But personally, I think gone are the days that you're going to have 100% office environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. And Angela, what are you seeing in terms of coming back, not coming back? Maybe for the U.S., in general, for those that just joined, Angela is in Irvine, California, so has a different perspective perhaps than perhaps we'd have in Canada, but you're involved with the recruiting on the Canadian side. So
absolutely. Yeah, we are, number one is really the safety and well-being of our associates and the families, right? So we are monitoring very, very closely each state, each country. And again, we determine that based on data. So some offices are doing a rotation. They go 25% of the associates per week in a rotation of 4 weeks. Some others are doing 50-50. It really depends on the restrictions, case counts, and testing. In Irvine, in my office, the headquarters, we are not back yet. I don't believe we will ever be back to completely in the office, everybody as it was before. I think it will be a flexible, that's my opinion. They are looking into it and how to monitor. There are some jobs or functions that it's impossible to do remotely, like our warehouse folks. They are there, they have to be there. But I do believe there's a level of transparency and communication in resilience that's in every associate now that's different than before. But again, to answer your question, I think it's a flexible work environment that we'll go back to. And not every office is in the same. There's still offices in Europe that are completely shut down, as well as here in the US, and rotational in Canada, in some places in Buffalo, New York.
Gotcha, good. Yeah. So we're getting a few questions coming in, and if you're just watching or just joined, feel free to post your questions in either the event or the stage chat, and I will get to as many as I can. We are live here, so this event is for you to get information that will help you, and whether it's your job search, if you're a recruiter, you have some questions, issues that are related to recruiters, and you want to get another idea, another perspective on things, feel free to ask. So Brian, I'll ask you this question. This is from Andrew, who's posted this question. For those interested in changing careers in the middle of their life, what is a good approach to figuring out what field is right for you? He's worked in accounting for 20 years, would prefer to do something else, but he's not sure what. So what would you suggest from a coach's perspective?
Well, thanks. And thank Andrew for that great question, because there's so many people that are using this time right now to try to assess where they're at and what they want to do. And I think it's been said by a couple of people in the panel already to find your passion. And but if you are in a work world that you've been working in for many years, and you've obviously have thought about some other things that you might be interested in doing, but a great way to take a good stock of your own skills and experience, to meet with perhaps a career coach, to talk to him or her, to find out where you can assess your skills and experience, and then also to continue to do the research, talking to people in their different industries and companies, and to find out where you think, or where the other people that you talk to may think that there may be a good match for your skills and experience. So the more people you talk to, the more debriefing of your own skills and experience, and to look what your passion is, put it all together, then you can be in a better position to find out what's the right role for you.
Good stuff. Awesome. Great response. Shauna Abhishek has the question as well. So this is, I'll direct this question to you. In general, do resumes of new immigrants with no Canadian experience get lesser preference than those with some experience in Canada?
Absolutely not from my perspective. I don't care where your experience is from. I care what your experience is. I don't believe, right? Anyone who does recruiting on a full-time basis, really that's irrelevant from most of our perspectives. I speak for not just my country, but I do own talent acquisition across North America. So I speak for my recruiting team in the US as well. And I see Angela kind of nodding her head. We just care to do the job. How you get that experience is irrelevant. We're hiring you for you. We're hiring you for what you bring to the organization, not where you got the stuff that you're bringing to the organization, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So Angela, is it the same? Because in Canada, this question comes up quite a bit. I don't have Canadian experience. How can I get a job without a Canadian experience? Is it the same? Just curious with American experience. So you don't have American experience. So how do I get American experience if I don't have American experience? Or is there something different in the US?
Shana just said it. Thank you. That's really the human being, your brain power. And I think I am a concrete example. I didn't attend school in the US. Everything in my background, for example, in many that we hire, it's really, especially in an international organization, to be quite honest, sometimes we even look at people that are interested in come from the international background that will suit in some areas of the business that will demand that global awareness, that international experience. So it's really focusing on what you have done in the previous experience, regardless of where, but how it can impact your future success. So that's the fundamental for our process of hiring.
Excellent. So, Shauna, coming back to you, perhaps. This is a question from Data Tray. Do recruiters consider candidates who are currently in the US willing to relocate? He has IT data warehousing experience for 15 plus years. So how do you treat people who are in the US and moving or want to move to Canada?
So for us, we don't really do a tremendous number of sponsorships. So you have to be able to get your own working visa. As long as you are eligible to work in the country that you're applying to, whether it's US or Canada, that's all we care about as well. That's the only criteria that we look for. Unfortunately, sponsorship is a whole different area. That's not really our forte. We're not really great on the immigration side. There's also lots of things that we need to satisfy in order to look at the potential of sponsorship. So we do try to at least look for people eligible to work in Canada. And if you're in the US but eligible, we don't care. It's that eligibility requirement that we usually have.
Okay, perfect. And Jesse, if you're checking things out, Jesse's working behind the scenes to make sure everything's running smoothly. But just a quick plug that we are running the virtual Immigrating to Canada conference as well. So Data Tray, you might be interested in coming to that. So maybe Jesse, you can throw in the link if you don't mind, please, when you get a chance. So let's talk about Black Lives Matter. There's so many issues, and Angela, this is, it's an issue across North America, but maybe Angela, you can talk about this. 89% of HR employees expect solidarity with Black Lives Matter. This was a report from Fishbowl found that 89% of HR workers expect their organization to respond with public solidarity for BLM. So it's basically brought forward to the forefront that the need for leaders and organizations to prioritize diversity and ensure it, along with inclusion and belonging, and that those are reflected throughout the entire organization. So maybe you can talk about not just BLM, but diversity, inclusion, like maybe things that your company has done, both in the US and or Canada.
Absolutely. Yes, it has been on the top of our minds for the first time ever. Ingram Micro now has about one person designated just to take care of how are we entering to our pipeline of candidates, diverse candidates from gender, ethnicity, disability. So we are much more aware, I think, and now acting on it, now being extremely intentional. The awareness has always been there, but as I talk to my recruiters and with myself, I was never aware of my white privileges. I didn't even, I always say I'm an immigrant. But now being aware, that changes completely in the way you talk to people, the way you listen to people. We do have now, as I said, one person. He is the PM of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the US and Canada. We are looking for more platforms where we can interact. We are creating ERG groups, employee resource groups inside Ingram Micro. We didn't have it before. So there are conversations, HR always with that on the top of our minds. But what about all the other associates? What about the hiring managers that are hiring? What about every single person in the organization? So it's a time for education now for all of us.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a interesting time for sure, right? So Brian, let's talk. Any other points on inclusion, diversity, and that the panel wants to bring up, discuss at all? No. Okay. So Brian, let's talk about video interviewing, and we'll hear your perspective on things, and then we'll talk to Sean and Angela and hear their perspective. How do you prepare somebody to do a video interviewing? What kind of tips are you giving them? Because a lot of companies are doing video interviews. So what suggestions do you have for people?
Well, the number one thing is that I like to tell my clients to prepare for the video interview like you would prepare for an in-person interview. And that means to do whatever it takes to be at your top game for that interview. Do your research, prepare in terms of your dress, have all your information ready, make sure that in terms of the technology, make sure everything is set up properly, the lighting, maybe practice with somebody one-on-one, maybe your friend or someone that you know already that works in HR, who can give you some feedback on how you look and how you present yourself in the video interview. Think about putting your best foot forward as you would in an interview in person, in terms of smiling, being ready, being prepared. Practice on Zoom so that you don't find yourself nervous at all, so that you show yourself to be the confident person that you really are.
That's great. And so, Shauna, what are you doing for interviews? Are you bringing people in, or is it video interview first and then in person, or what's your organization doing?
Yes, we're a little bit ahead of the curve on that one, because actually almost 4 years ago, we moved to a portion of our screening done by video anyway. So we are in partnership with an organization called HireView, and they actually, it's videos, pre-recorded pre-screening, if you will. So it's a link. They record videos to questions that we ask of them. It takes away or eliminates a lot of the need to do telephone screening and chasing people down to find where they are, and it actually shortened our time to fill tremendously, because we were finding that people were able to take this video mobilely from their living room at 3 o'clock in the morning, should they choose. So it wasn't restricted to business hours. So we've been traditionally been doing digital interviews for a while, which has been great, because I think a lot of people now applying to Cinex have been applying to Cinex, so they're sort of used to seeing that link. We're not doing anything in person yet, except for obviously our operations. But yes, the rest of our interviews are digital, over Teams or over Zoom. I agree with Brian. It's the exact same as an in-person. We really don't recommend people coming to, videos in pajamas. We still want people being prepared. We still want to make sure people are doing their research and asking really great questions. It's still a two-way conversation. So all the rules that you would normally apply in an interview are the exact same. It's just that you unfortunately don't get to shake hands with people.
Right. And Angela, so there's a Russian robot called Vera, who can interview 10,000, 5,000, something like that, people a day. And she can do it in different languages and record and have dialogues and so on. where do you see the future of not just video recording, but video interviews? But where do you see the future of recruiting going? Like, what changes do you think are going to come down the pipes? What are you noticing from your, career last year, few years? What do you think the future holds?
Absolutely. I think artificial intelligence will be commanding our lives, right? And you have to acknowledge it and make sure that we are using it the best way possible. We are using Maya, for example, the bot. It's our recruiter bot that's helping. And the level of satisfaction of candidates interacting with Maya are 98% positive. So they are happy with that. The fact is they can get a quicker response. And that's the first screening, superficial first questions, but although important and relevant. And what gives us back is time to have more meaningful conversations with candidates. So questions that you really want to get to know about their personality, their past experiences, key competencies. The bots are not yet created or developed to capture. So I think that's really it's going to be the change for humankind will be the ability to use the machines and artificial intelligence to enable us to be even more humans. So that's how I see recruiting. I also see taking advantage of the technologies. We just talked about video interviews. That was new for Ingram, right? We saw some coaching necessary for some leaders, but that translates into ability to better utilize resources. When you don't spend dollars or Canadian dollars or American dollars paying for travels and people to go places to interview, so on and so forth, you can revert that perhaps in better benefits for associates, chances to offer overall better benefits in a work environment. So I think the changes for better. I'm a futurist myself. I believe in technology tremendously, but we always have to be careful and see and ask the question, how is it helping me to be a better human?
That's awesome. So Brian, let's talk about resumes for a second. Then I want to ask Sean a follow-up question on that. So what are you seeing as trends on resumes? What should people who are putting their resumes together, what do you think they should be doing? What changes should they be thinking about?
Well, some of the things are things that have been around for a long time. You want your resume to really stand out. It's not the more you put on the resume that makes the resume better. It's the resume that shows what you can achieve, what you accomplished in your job, and that you can bring from your past job into your new job that you did before. And you want to be able to demonstrate. So if anyone looks at your resume, they can look at it and get a good sense of your story and what have you been doing for the last 10 to 15 years that shows that you can accomplish what that organization is looking for. Demonstrating any awards that you have or any other committees that you've been on, any other volunteer work, any other work that you've done years ago that you think is relevant. You want to put that up there near the front of the resume so people can see. So you want to demonstrate that you have what it takes, what an organization is looking for.
Perfect. So Sean, I'll follow up, and thanks very much for that, Brian. That's great. So Shauna, what frustrates you about a resume when you get a resume? What are things that turn you off?
Okay, so you can ask this question of 10 recruiters and you're going to get 12 answers. So I'm going to give you strictly my perspective. So I am not the be all and end all when it comes to recruiting. I do want to throw it out there. But my personal pet peeve, saying in 8 pages something that you can do in 3. I do think that the length of resume I do think shorter is better. I think that the more succinct a resume, the better it is. I think even at a senior level, you can tell us your story. As Brian says, you can showcase your achievements in a format that won't lose the attention of recruiters. The obvious is the spelling mistakes. That completely drives me around the bend. Personal as well. Again, I do still want to say personal pet peeve, referring to yourself in the third person. I know tremendous number of people that do it. There may be a market for that if you're looking at PhDs, higher education, absolutely. But I think for the everyday average job, I want to know you're a person. I don't want to know you're a third person. I want to your resume is the very first introduction of you to the organization. And I think it's incumbent that you put your best foot forward. And how you do that is is showing us how you could be you on paper. Easier said than done, I get it, but there are ways to do that. And if you need to have someone review your resume, or even if you ask some recruiters out there or HR professionals that you know, or friends of friends of friends to say, hey, do you mind shopping my resume around just to critique it? I guarantee you're going to get some people who are more than happy to do that for you.
Excellent advice. So Angela, this is a question from Joan, who asks, I've had a couple of instances in which a recruiter showed great interest and wanted to move forward only to suddenly then ghost me. How much would you recommend I follow up, and how before moving on?
Mm-hmm. Very good question. So the recruiter shouldn't do it, but of course many don't follow the etiquette or the best practice on recruiting. So I would say you end the interview, ask for the recruiter if you can follow up, and when can you expect an update. So that's a fair question to be asked. In the time frame that the recruiter is saying, in 2 weeks, let's say, send a note, send a follow-up. I also would say connect on LinkedIn with the recruiter you're interviewing with. It's super important you amplify your network, and most of the recruiters will say yes, because they also should be amplifying their network. I would say I always have the 3 messages rule with myself, and I would say that follow up on a date the recruiter sent to you, follow up again another time, and then the 3rd time, no response. I would say maybe it's not the organization you want to be part of, because the best practice should be getting back to every candidate. What I tell my recruiters also is if they know it's a higher level position and the recruiting time to fill usually takes an average 50 days or 55 days, we are transparent with the candidate about it, because if you are the first to be interviewed, most likely you'll be the one waiting the longest to get the response.
Great advice. That's great. So if you're just joining, or you're only catching the back half, my name is Mark Belache. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. I'm joined by Shauna, Brian, and Angela, who are in the recruiting industry and have some great experience and knowledge. So if you have questions, whether you are a recruiter looking for some advice on how to deal with a situation, or if you're a job seeker trying to get a job, you can ask your questions in the chat, whether it's in the event or in the stage chat. I will be moderating them. I'm also randomly giving away copies of my book called Tales from the Recruiter, just for people who are asking questions, and I'll connect with them afterwards. So let's talk about working from home. Because here's a new stat that just came out over the weekend, that 49% of Canadians are considering quitting their job. So 1 in 2. So you have a weird situation. You got half the people are looking to quit their jobs, and you got about 700,000 people across Canada who are looking for jobs. So, but the survey was that the highest rates of workers who are thinking of quitting their jobs are found in Quebec, Ontario, Alberta, and British Columbia. And 43% of the employees believe their companies have failed to provide measures that support their well-being throughout the pandemic, as they face challenges such as lack of social interaction, isolation, loneliness, increase in workload. And then you've got the working from home, all that around, which encompasses everything. So Shauna, maybe you can talk about, what people who are working from home and having these issues, because there's a lot of mental health that's kind of wrapped all around this. What's your organization doing, if anything? What should people what should they be doing if they're working from home, they're feeling isolated? Any other thoughts on that topic?
That's a great question. I think the very first thing that organizations, not just cynics, organizations need to acknowledge is that it's important to position mental health not as a stigma, but it's out there. It's we want you to come forward. It's we want to support you. It's we don't care what is causing it. We want to be able to help you through whatever it is that you're experiencing. A lot of people we find don't come forward because there's still a stigma around mental health, or they're afraid of how their employer is going to react. I think enlightened employers have a duty to our associates, especially in pandemics or especially in trying times, of taking all that noise out of the organization and saying, it's okay to not be okay. And we may not have all the answers for you, but maybe we can help point you in a direction. And anything organizations can do, even if it's resources that the organization needs to front from a benefits perspective, or partner with other organizations such as Wellness Together, I think is what the platform is called. So a while ago, the government had decided that mental health was becoming an issue. This was in April, May, and they actually have a platform that they developed that is free to Canadians. You can actually, I think it's called Wellness Together. So employers don't need to spend money to advertise some of these websites and say there's resources that are available for you. For employers that are able to, always an employee assistance program is a really fantastic thing to have. Confidential, all associates can have access to it. Any type of mental health resources that we can give, Not Myself Today through CAMH, which is another one of those resources that is a very low cost program for Canadian employers. We try to do all of those things at any possible moment. Anything that our benefits company or benefits provider, which happens to be Green Shield, is offering, they have links and resources on their website. When COVID hit, most of the vendors in the benefit space were very quick to acknowledge that mental health is going to be even more of an issue, and threw resources at employers as much as they possibly could. So if anyone who is employed or has an HR department or has benefits, I absolutely encourage everybody checking out those resources and talk about it. There shouldn't be a stigma to this. And I get that it's frightening, and I get that it's not an easy thing to do. If you want to stay confidential, find those organizations that are more than happy to keep it confidential. Kids Help Phone, I know we say it's for kids. It's not for kids. They have an adult text line as well. There's a number of free resources, and I strongly, strongly, strongly encourage everyone to investigate them.
Excellent. Those are great tips, and definitely a big issue right now. There's so many issues going on right now, which makes for an interesting time in recruiting, HR, organizations, and so on. We have about 11 minutes left now. My name is Mark Belache. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. You'll see the time left just above our heads here on the blue fuse. I'm here joined by Shauna Kapustin, who's an experienced senior human resources professional from Synex Corporation. Brian Epstein is a career management and leadership coach. And Angela Bertolini was named the #1 recruiter in the world based on the LinkedIn Recruiter Index in 2018. And Angela leads a team that finds innovative talent to join Ingram Micro, Cloud Blue, and technology solutions with innovation. So if you have any questions, by all means, throw them in here, and I'm going to read through as many as I can here. So maybe, Brian, this is kind of wrapped around together. I'm going to share Yan Rand's question and Daniela's question. And they're both kind of around the same, like they don't have as much experience. So Yan Rand, is experience really important for an entry-level job? An entry-level position often requires something like 3 years of experience. Would you rather select an experienced candidate rather than just a fresh, somebody new with internship experience? And then Daniela's question is, what advice would you give students who are about to graduate and have little or no experience on their field? So what do you tell people with not much experience looking to get a job in terms of, doing their resume or their job search and so on?
A big challenge for so many people. And I've worked with people starting out in their careers, just finishing university. I've also helped people that are internationally educated professionals and who are trying to showcase what they have to offer in a new country such as Canada or United States. I think the biggest thing is to get involved as much as possible, whether or not that's in a volunteer role where you're an accountant or you have some other experience in IT. Demonstrate that by getting involved in some organization that you can volunteer your experience, that you can showcase all that you have to offer. I know that also in Canada, there are lots of organizations that people can get some, maybe in some cases low paying, but you can get some co-op positions for internationally educated professionals. And there are also some programs that are available for people coming out of university and college where people can get some availability, some skills and experience in some different organizations as well. The key thing is to get involved, to try to take this opportunity. It can be stressful and frustrating, but if you're resourceful and reach out and talk to as many people as possible in the community, there are resources that are available that can help people to launch their careers, for both someone starting out in their career or someone that's an internationally educated professional.
That's great. Angela, any other additional comments that you might have for somebody who doesn't have that much experience?
Absolutely. I would say look at their jobs they hire, because organizations that are healthy and are growing, they will have internship opportunities, but as well as a career. Because the ideal scenario would be you enter as an intern, or you enter as an early career rotational program, and you have conditions to stay in the organization. So doing the homework, I always like to say, is not job seekers or job researchers. Are you researching the organization? Think that's your opportunity to also choose. Should not apply for every single job you see just because you are looking. Do the filter. Make sure that you do a level of scrutiny that you serve you long term, not in a short term only.
Great advice. We've got a few minutes left, so feel free to ask your questions as quickly as I can. I'm trying to go through them as quickly for the panel. So Shauna, maybe Susan has a question. If I was in commercial account management, I think it's a typo. It says 112 years ago, which might, probably maybe 12 years ago, maybe 11 years ago. And now in risk management, I would like to transition back to sales and account management. Should I do a functional resume? I also hear employers prefer chronological resumes. So what would you say? I'm
going to say the same thing I said a couple of minutes ago. My preference is my preference only. So again, it's every recruiter can have a different answer to this one as well. I personally like the chronological simply because it does allow us to see a timeline. It allows us to sort of see how well-rounded you are. It's not just about the jobs that you've held. It could be about some of the places that you volunteered, or even your extracurricular, or what do you do in your spare time. But if that's the part that you're trying to highlight, there's tons of ways to do that. You can either do that with a cover letter to say, hey, I tried my hand at this, but my first love is this. I'd love to get back to it. You can put a summary at the beginning of your resume. So, where lots of people put their skills or their desired job, you could put a statement in there that says, my forte, my love, my whatever is account management. I've done X and X in the field, and I'm really looking to stay focused in that area. There's lots of ways that you can let recruiters know that that's your interest, respective of the fact that you may have tried your hand at something different.
Excellent. So Angela, Abhishek asked a question here as well. What part of the resume do recruiters look out for to quickly filter out candidates based on their resume?
I wouldn't say it's not one part, is the entire resume. Do know that recruiters spend seconds in a resume, and there are researchers out there showing it. So being concise and being truthful to your experience. I always believe that inflating a resume, adding many jargons and words, it won't change the experience. So being concise, to the point. Some keywords can benefit you, absolutely. So again, comes my point about being a researcher. When you're applying for jobs and you see some keywords on the job descriptions that you have different keywords, maybe you need to adjust. It's not inflating, it's adjusting. So thinking that sometimes there are systems or bots that are used to filter resumes. Also thinking about junior recruiters that perhaps don't understand in depth. That's the reality, right? So making sure that you tailor your application for each job, being truthful to your real skills. I cannot say one part or another. If I hear one of our recruiters in my team are just focusing on one part, I will be concerned. So I cannot answer this, but I would say be prepared, be concise, and be truthful.
Great advice. Well, there's a lot of questions here. I'm going to try to get through as many as I can in the last 5 minutes here. So Brian, back to you. Peter is asking, is there a job market for people in age group 60 to 65? And maybe you can talk about that question, but also what would you do as a coach? What would you coach them, somebody in 60 to 65 years old, to do for jobs?
Well, one of the ways I got into the coaching business is that I was meeting with one person who I was doing a little bit of coaching with, more of on a friendship level, and a 66-year-old gentleman overheard the conversation, and he hired me because he wanted to do more things in his career. He had a lot of experience, and I think there are opportunities for people. And again, it's to do, which has already been said a couple of times today, is to do the research to see where there may be organizations that may be open to bringing someone with a lot of experience on. It depends what you're looking for to take a stock of, again, I've said this before today, but take a stock of what you have to offer and to do some research and to meet with different people. And the more people you talk to, the more people you're going to find out where there may be opportunities that you can offer your skills and experience and who's going to be interested. So in short, yes, there are opportunities for people 60 to 65, and a lot of people are working a lot longer today than ever before.
Great. So we've got just a couple minutes left, so I'll just go around real quick, maybe 30 to 45 seconds for each of you to just, anything we haven't talked about, anything that was previously brought up that you want to mention, or you just want to add a point. So starting with you, Shauna.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for being here today. So that's great. Thank you, Mark, for mediating, and then Brian and Angela, really nice to meet you. As a final point, as I said, it's easy for us to sit here and say that be positive. Things are going to change. Things are going to look up. We understand that you might not feel that way in the moment, but I choose to believe that the world will find a normal. I choose to believe that. Technology is smart and people are relatively smart within that, and we will start looking different. How long that takes, I don't know, but be as positive as you possibly can. Network with as many people as you possibly can. Network. Can't stress that enough. Attend events, talk to recruiters, talk to agencies, talk to whomever it is that you're able to talk to. I think there's a huge value in volunteering and giving your time and filling in things that are positive and help your mental health yourself, and not just focusing 8 hours a day on finding a job, because that could be demoralizing and that could really be disheartening. And I think it's important that you find your balance. And part of that could be whether it's exercise, whether it's a mental health thing, whether it's volunteering, find what fits you. And I think that's important, because that passion will absolutely come through in interviews.
Awesome. And Brian, any final thoughts?
Well, Shauna covered a lot right there, and I agreed with everything she said. But I just think to add what she's already said is to get the support that you need, and whether or not it's from other people in the business, your friends, other professionals. It is a challenging time, but you will get through this time. You believe in yourself. Be resourceful, get the help that you need, and reach out to people. And as Sean has said, network, and it will lead to new opportunities.
That's great, Brian. And Brian, how can someone get hold of you if they need help on their resume or they want some coaching?
Sure. I have a website. It's epsteinsuccesscoach.ca, or my phone number is 647-528-9027. Or they can call me at brian.epstein@outlook.com. They email me, I should say.
What was the number again? Maybe if somebody was just missed the
Sure. 647-528-9027.
Okay, so definitely reach out if you need some help on your resume, you need some advice. So how about you, Angela? Anything last minute comments? Anything that we haven't covered off? You want to wrap everything together in a bow?
Absolutely. I would say for the job researchers out there, I won't say job seekers. So divide your day. I learned that many years ago, and I shared that advice. Think about yourself. Take care of you, your mental health, who you are. Go for a walk. Talk to people that you love. Eat well. That's one. Then do your research. Devote time to, your search or companies. Do they match you, your values, who you are? Networking is super important. LinkedIn is there. And the other one will be learning. Devote the time, never waste a crisis. If there's a situation and you have an opportunity to learn and develop skills, maybe now there's time. So there are several platforms out there. I personally like LinkedIn Learning because for the cost, I get a lot. There are many others out there. So take advantage of this time to do a self-assessment, take care of yourself, learn more, and connect with others.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank each of you, Brian Epstein, career management and leadership coach, Shauna who's experienced senior HR professional from Synex Corporation, and Angela, who #1 recruiter. We have to talk about how you got on there on the LinkedIn Recruiter Index, who manages the team that finds talent to join Ingram Micro Cloud, Cloud Blue, and Technology Solutions with Innovation. So thanks very much to all of you. Thanks for all of you who have joined and watched. We are doing a career conference this Wednesday. If you're interested in joining us as well, it'll be more intensive, more detailed. There'll be a lot of other speakers. That happens this Wednesday, October 28th. So if you're looking to get more information about finding tips on your job and you want to ask questions live, we have some amazing speakers as well. All you have to do is visit TorontoJobs.ca/news. That's TorontoJobs.ca/NEWS for more information. I will reach out to those people that have asked questions about getting a copy of my book mailed to you. You can also post your resume on TorontoJobs.ca. You can also check out our YouTube channel where we have a lot of videos on different topics on job search. So that's our TorontoJobs.ca YouTube channel. And of course, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And you can also, we added a bonus of 10 minutes here. So you have 8 minutes till 10 after the hour, 5:10 here in Toronto in Eastern time zone, 2:10 afternoon for you, Angela. But we have the expo is open, so you can check out some of the exhibitors and booths. You can watch some of the videos that we have in order to help you out. So hope they'll see you on Wednesday afternoon at the Canadian Virtual Career Conference. And if the panel can just hold on there, and we're just going to say goodbye. So thanks very much for all of you on the panel, for those of you that were watching, and have a great day and stay safe, and hope to see you soon. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. You're welcome to connect with me if I can help you out. Thanks very much.